think, as well. Cool. Yeah, so kicking this off here, I'm just going to find someone to follow the camera of, as I am feeling particularly lazy today. Not gonna lie. You know, always good to be honest, right? In the bottom right-hand side, our red Protoss player, it is going to be MaxPax in what will be this best of 9 series from the Alpha Pro series of show matches. And he is taking on ByuN in the top left-hand side, our blue Terran player. As ByuN was still playing in a lot of things ahead of Katowice, he's one of the few players that was. MaxPax obviously as well, because he's not going to be at Katowice, pulled out of the tournament for his own reasons. We don't know what they are before people start asking, but yeah, that's the situation basically. So that's where we are at. And that's kind of why you get these plays, because these are the plays which really can, which really are just playing and stuff. So this was played about a week ago for me casting it, so I believe this was played, I want to say like February 8th or something. Maybe it was a week and a half ago. It's not the February 15th anymore, is it? No, I think it was played about a week and a half ago, or there or thereabouts, guys. So you have a rough idea of when it was played and when it went, or when all this went down, just so you know. It's always nice to have that information, of course. As we get ourselves set up, it is going to be a Reaper. It's going to be on the way in. I'm just going to be getting that set to rumble. So just getting that all underway, getting ready to go. And just going to be seeing very normal stuff to start out with. Which, to be fair, when you're casting ByuN and MaxPax, is not always going to be the case. ByuN is very much so a player who will mix it up a lot in his games and will do very different things. MaxPax is obviously someone who, you know, really lives and dies by that idea as well. So, yeah, definitely not a guarantee that you're just going to see these guys start off with an expansion and continue with expansions. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting that is indeed going to be the case here initially. As we get this going and just see where we get to. Just going to see Reaper heading down to the bottom right-hand corner. He's obviously going to go for a bit of scouting information early, and a follow-up of Marauders here from ByuN, so he will be looking upon a little bit of additional pressure to the norm, and will be trying his best to make something happen with that here. Over the next few moments, he's going to get one probe already jumping in, and the Adept just not in position at all to help. He's going to get a second probe, but it costs him the Reaper, and then you've got that question mark of, well, was that worth it or was it not? It's not an easy one to answer per se, but I think it's one of those scenarios where I think it's just kind of okay. Like, it's not ideal, it's not the end of the world either though, right? It's very much so in the middle. You get 2 probes, you don't have any further scouting. I think you're kind of okay with that, actually. And 2 probes is nice. Now he's going to try and get this Adept. Unfortunately, the Adept was already shading, so it's going to get out of that initial slow. Now, the Marauders can still go back and get this here. The problem with going back to get it is that you're going to be kind of pulling these Marauders away from maybe getting across the map and being aggressive, and you're not going to get it. The Adept shade is good enough, once again, to keep it alive, so that Adept is being kept alive right now. That's obviously some very good news, and that's nice to see happening. It's just going to be seeing the Adept continuing on home then. It is going to be pulling all the way back and getting settled back down. Well, 2 extra racks behind this from ByuN is going to go straight into kind of bio-focus play, no starport or anything to worry about in that regard. And so we continue to set up with that for the moment here, and we're just going to see our Adept. Just again, as much map control as he can get from this Adept, right? And so far it's working pretty well. He's been able to keep a lot of the map control so far. Just being able to keep very good vision basically throughout this. So continuing to do just that, as we do have first Cyclone just sat here. But actually go second Cyclone, so maybe a bit of aggression across the map. That does give you some pushing potential going to go to the other side. So that's something else we can maybe watch out for. These couple of Sorkers are going to be able to push the Marauders back a little bit. The Marauders will turn and try and get a kill, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Last shot. Oh my god. Well, the shot went off even though the blink came down. The blink was a little bit too late in actuality, but it didn't matter anyways. It was already it was already alive, and well, that was very close. The Marauders go down, applying some pressure, scaring your opponent a little bit. That sometimes doesn't seem like a lot, but it has its effects. It has its bonuses. To have been across the map and to have been active there a little bit and to kind of just be in your opponent's face definitely has has its positives. It's a small map as well, by the way, Berlingrad, one of the shorter rush distances, so it's an easy map to get across on. It's an easy map to get up in your opponent's face on. You know, you can do all those things very nicely, very easily. Ton of gateways from MaxPax. He's obviously played Blink, and now he's playing Charge as he loses an Observer at the front. Good catch from ByuN. But the plan here becomes basically to just swarm with units, and I really do mean swarm. I mean, this is going to be a lot of Stalker Zealot, and it's going to feel almost non-stop, but you got to remember here, most importantly, that this is very committed out of MaxPax. You know, because he's not teching up at all, right? There is not really much of a future to this game outside of these Blink Stalkers. So if these Blink Stalkers aren't making something happen, and these charge lots, then, you know, the Terran can survive into a very good position from there. So, yeah, it definitely looks as though we're going to have a fair amount of aggression. I mean, the idea here is the map is fairly open, so you can swarm your opponent in a little bit, and especially if they try to get aggressive on what is a short map, then you can really take advantage of that aggression moving across the map. You can get the jump on that, and if you get the jump on that, that's obviously very, very good, and more or less exactly what you're looking for a lot of the time. So that's what we're seeing a little bit of at the moment. That's going to be seeing a couple medevacs still coming up here. Our Bioforce still just sat around and looking for its opportunity to maybe get something done. In the end, I mean, MaxPax doesn't want to force a fight if ByuN isn't moving out. He wants to force the fight if ByuN moves out into the open space. He can counterattack with the Prism, catch this army perhaps in an open area for some, you know, a really good just engagement in general. That is the goal here of MaxPax. It's not to go forcing a fight just for whatever reason. He really wants to try and make sure it's a good, proper fight, and exactly one that he really wants here. So, making the most of this, as we did see ByuN move forward a little bit, the Prism decided to pull the trigger, and Zealots do go into the base right from the get-go here and starting to put some damage out. Gonna chase the Prism down a little bit as well, as a few SCVs went down. The Prism is gonna die. That's massive for ByuN, because all of a sudden, this allows you to go across the map, actually, right? Now you have basically permission to go over to the other side and say, oh yeah, I can move my army around. I can kind of do what I want. There's no rules anymore. So we'll see if ByuN wants to take advantage of that at all, as he is going to start pressing forward immediately. And Stalker's already trying to blink back, stay out of trouble. You know, a little group of units up the right side, which is where the medevacs have just flown over. So the Zealot run by spots the medevacs and vice versa. Now, so both players pull back from their intended aggression here, realizing that it's maybe just not meant to be, at least not for the moment. CC moves forward. It's going to get down over there. I'm just going to see a little scan going down as well. Nice little scan just to get a little bit of info, keep an eye on what's going on, and obviously figure out what you're attacking into, and if you really want to attack into it right now. As ByuN gonna have these two medevacs down the right. Big blink catches one immediately. No luck there at all with this attack. That's going absolutely nowhere. I mean, that's worst case scenario, more or less. I mean, it doesn't get uglier than that, right? It's just going to be seeing the Stalkers getting a great catch, and now ByuN, well, he's only really going to have the army through the middle, and his army supply is still strong. It's really strong for this one push, though, and then it is done. So this is very much so a do it now or, or never do it kind of situation, I think, for ByuN. He does have a third base. He does have backup options. It just feels like we're getting already to that kind of stage where it's maybe somewhat kind of decided a little bit. So let's see. And it feels like he needs to make something happen right now, as we do have this bio army moving down. The Stalker's going to catch this as, again, a group of Zealots that have run across the map. And these Zealots and the Mauls, I thought we were just going to engage in there. Open space, good concave. Could really have had a decent surround in that moment, but just decided not to go for it. Didn't like it for whatever reason. So we'll hold back from it for the moment, as we're going to see the bio units stemming forward here, and just going to be seeing those few Zealots continue to go down with a one shot going off, and this Bioforce trying to just force its way through into this base, trying to get on top and maybe make something happen. Unfortunately, he doesn't quite find anything just yet. And the Colossus is here as well with these Immortals buffering this army. I just don't see how you win this fight as ByuN, unfortunately. I really do think he's in a spot of bother, quite frankly. I think he is in some serious trouble, guys. I don't think he's in a good place at all. I mean, his army supply advantage is gone, and that's one of the things you typically tend to keep as a Terran player throughout the course of a game, right? The army supply lead. So losing out on that is concerning, if nothing else. And MaxPax is just going up to 4th base while ByuN sits on 3, and ByuN just doesn't really seem to have a way to do anything about that at all. He really does just seem stuck here, unable to find an answer at the moment, as Bioforces once again are pulling back through to the upper left-hand side. So away they go. Army still set up in the center. Stalkers taking a few hits. Continue to trade out here a little bit. And just going to be seen. I mean, the thing from MaxPax is he's a little bit wary of going across the map, so he's not super confident in just going straight across and pulling the trigger or anything. So that's, I mean, that's a good caution to have, right? You don't want to get overly, you know, cocky, I suppose, in these sort of situations, right? So, you know, you're good to be cautious. That's fine. I don't mind how he's playing this at the moment as the Bioforce comes in again. Stalker's taking damage, and these few Colossi coming forward. They are going to try and put some damage back onto this, and the Bio army taking a whole bunch of shots. Is being pushed back. We do see the missile turret picked off as well at the front, and now a couple of these depots are starting to go down. So depots beginning to fall. Well, the Colossus count is just ridiculous, right? And there's not really any proper anti-air. I mean, they've got Vikings on the way up right now, but too little too late. I mean, they're not here for this main fight. The SCVs pull in to try and help, but they will just melt the Colossus fire, and there is plenty left over once those SCVs are gone. So even with the buffer, it wasn't even really close for ByuN. He wasn't able to even begin to turn the tide in this fight. And that is going to be GG's, and MaxPax takes the first game of this best of 9 series. Thank you so much, Enterprise90, for the Prime sub, as well as we kickstart Game 2 of this best of 9 in the bottom left-hand corner with the blue Terran player from the Shopify Rebellion. It is ByuN. In the upper right-hand side, the red pro display here is MaxPax, of course, and we'll see what he comes out with in a second game. Of course, you don't always expect the same from MaxPax, right? So that's definitely a factor. You expect him to potentially mix this up as well and play different styles, and potentially some very aggressive styles included in that. So excited to see exactly what that turns out to be and how that looks. You should start getting an idea of the early game plan, at least in the next few moments. Hey, what's up, Cam? Thank you so much for the 10-month resub, and Katsushiru for the 8-month resub on the Prime as well. Thanks for the love, guys. I appreciate you all tuning in a bit and dropping some Primes and everything. Thank you so much. Wasn't really expecting anything today. Thank you so much for filling up that donation stand nice and early. As if you're chasing a probe around, next is coming through, and the Reaper is continuing up. Just going to be having STV heading all the way to the upper right-hand side and just getting this set up right now. We are going to have our orbital command just coming through, finishing up in a moment as our new CC sets up on the natural. Well, Tech Lab on the barracks, and just going to be seeing another depot, and we'll see if we once again see some Marauders early. Obviously, that's how the last game got going as well, and at the moment, it seems like it's very likely it's how this game is getting going too. And it seems like that's really going to be a big part of ByuN's game plan today. Just play a bunch of Marauders, get the slows off, and just try and catch units early. Try and take some early advantages and just play from there in general. He's going to look for an early probe kill. He's going to get a probe kill again. I mean, it's funny how much of a repeat of the last game this is opening. Obviously, there's a Stargate down from MaxPax, so his tech is completely different. He's playing in a completely different way to what we just saw, but yeah, kind of cool otherwise as we get set up here. And just see where we will go. Reaper hops up to the high ground. Hops back down. The Adepts continue just going after that. Reaper is going to be able to pick that off pretty easily there, so that's a nice little catch. Max is going to give up the Tech Lab position, and that's going to be, well, a second barracks building, so I mean, you really got options in terms of what you do here. I imagine the tech lab goes to the factory for a little while. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense in terms of what you usually expect to see early game. An early cyclone or so, then the barracks gets a reactor, you start to build that marine count up, and you just go from there. That's typically, you know, a very normal set of things to happen, and that does seem to be where we are currently on our way to. Marauders into the center. The Oracle continues to move around there, just trying to see a little bit more of what's up. Obviously, the Oracle going to be the early map vision this time around compared to the Stalkers last time around, so that's a little bit of the difference here. Some Marauders come in, and they're going to be able to grab that probe. The Oracle coming through is going to activate, and Marauders continue to take quite a bit of damage, and Marauder looks as though it will go down, so that's one more Marauder falling. And we do get the pylon kill at least, so that's a kill, and well, the other Marauder's still in a bit of trouble over here, though, and that's going to be a full cleanup. I mean, okay, you get a pylon kill. It's something. It's kind of funny, because Marauders aren't cheap units, and they're not bad units either. It's just, they are the sort of units which in these builds, you kind of do say, oh yeah, I'm just giving these up, right? Like, they're just going to die, and if they die, that's kind of cool. It's part of the plan. It's like, well, really? Like, you know, they're kind of your early game units, so they put some pressure on, though, of course, and it gives you a chance to get set up more back at home as well, and that's a lot of the time all you really need, so yeah, in that regard, I suppose. Making sense as our Cyclones will get a little lock on to some Stalkers here for a little bit of fun and play, just to start things out. Cyclones pulling all the way back down to the natural expansion, so they pull back on over here. And just going to be hanging out as Stalkers continue their way across the map at the moment. So, a little bits and pieces continuing to go down right now. Again, Blink is going to be finishing soon, as we just have the Stalkers pressing on the front, the Marines coming in there, and they are just going to be firing up a storm. A couple more SCVs on the way out. And going and replacing the ones that just went down. I mean, a lot of very standard pressure. MaxPax just trying to put some action in on the front. He's going to go for the same style of a follow-up as well, by the way. So we talked last game about that kind of very aggressive blink into the charge, and this is very much so the same kind of thing, right? You're going to go... First you're going to go blink, and then you're going to go charge. You're going to have a lot of units very early, and that gives you a lot of aggressive opportunities. And we will see then if you want to try and take advantage of any of those in particular, or what the plan may end up being. So this map is a little bit larger, so obviously it's a little bit nicer for counterattacking on immediately, because it's going to take ByuN, you know, ByuN will be more out of position when you counterattack in. It is a little bit more choked up though, so I don't feel like there's as many opportunities for that army to wrap around and swarm like there was on Berlingrad. And I'm also not sure ByuN will give MaxPax opportunities. I mean, he didn't really give them to him on Berlingrad as he picks off the Oracle there. Nice catch to remove that map control. But, you know, on Berlingrad, this map where you can imagine the Terran really designed their play and their game around the idea of, oh, I'm going to move across the map and I'm going to get a push going and be aggressive. And then the style that MaxPax played really played in toward that. But now, well, now it's a little bit, I say a little bit, it's a very different affair, really. Because now you've got this much larger map, which ByuN is much less likely to want to be attacking on in the first place. And so, are you going to see him attack? Will he make those moves? You're going to see the Bio trying to kite a little bit. I mean, he's on the map right now. No counterattack, though, from MaxPax, I'm surprised to say. I thought, you know, this is immediately where I thought he would just be, up in his opponent's face, getting some damage done, making some action happen. I really thought this was going to be the kind of the moment he would shine in, but apparently not. He is building a gateway on the bottom side of the map, so he is looking for counterattacks. He is looking for counterplay. He's just not found it yet. Of course, no Prism in the game because he's skipping the Robo, and that is something which people have been doing lately. It is one of these styles. It is a conscious choice to skip the Robo, play no Prism, and then you basically have even more power on the Zealot Stalker. You get even more of them up. It hits harder. But obviously, you have less options as to where you can throw those units, and right now it feels like MaxPax has not actually found an opening at all to get those across the map into play or anything. So, yeah, not exactly looking ideal for MaxPax, I gotta say. As you do see, this Bioforce is going to get cornered a little bit here, but I mean, you're fighting in a choke point right now, so I don't even know if ByuN really cares that he's kind of stuck in the corner. You know, to him, yes, he's stuck in the corner, but he's got the choke point in his favor, and I think that should mean that he's in a actually alright kind of position there. Once he jumps up into the main base as well, and his opponent just can't follow effectively, so here you are now with a very weird situation where, well, ByuN is just going to start taking a lot of advantages. That army has been putting in some work, and okay, it's not been for free, but it's definitely been efficient. Zealots are going to start counterattacking. If MaxPax doesn't start finding something with these, he will start finding himself in a lot of trouble, in fact. Some cause for concern there as the ByuNs come in. Zealots will be there to fight back. That's going to be seen the Zealots running straight into the natural expansion now. A couple of Widow Mines burrow. I mean, Widow Mines can be a big part of these defenses. If they can just get a good shot off, sometimes they can be the defense on their own. We're actually going to recall the Zealots because he realizes everything else is on its way home. So with everything else on its way home, he says, yep, just going to pull back here and just make sure I keep everything alive that I can. He's going to clean up the medevacs on the other side, so that is, of course, a bonus as well. It's nice, don't get me wrong, to be preserving units. I mean, here come the DTs, the next attempt to attack. There are turrets finishing in some bases, though they will not cover all of the bases right away here, so maybe that will be the opportunity you're looking for right now as MaxPax. Maybe this is his chance. The DT is going to go down. Another DT moving out along the side there, and Bioforce comes into the mineral line, grabs another Dark Templar. That will fall. Another command center out the front at the moment. So just, again, a lot of setting up at the moment, a lot of getting built and getting things going. TTs have been annoying. They've been really kind of keeping ByuN back, and they've been keeping him from kind of progressing as quickly as I'm sure ByuN would have liked to be kind of progressing in this game, but I also feel like they're in this sort of weird situation where they're just not quite going to be able to ever do enough. Yeah, they're forcing scans, and they may be keeping ByuN's army back at home more than he would have been otherwise, but I just don't see it being enough still right now. I see that CC coming up on the front here. It's going to be having now a few probes transferring around between the bases as well, so they keep on moving through. Those T2 upgrades continuing into play at the moment, so they're coming up to being about halfway along at the moment as well. Even just like little Widow Mines like this, just setting up behind a base, and you compare how easily MaxPax took the 4th base in the last game to how much more difficult it is for him this time around, and that should give you a pretty good understanding of just why this game is really not going in his favor. Don't get me wrong, these DTs, they're still doing great, and he's killed 19 SCVs in the game, 7 of them just now. And he is getting to Colossus. He's getting to that point where that switch can be dangerous, where it can put your opponent in a little bit of a difficult position and, make them make some difficult choices, basically. They just drop into the base, though. I mean, that's going to be huge drop in and doing a lot of damage pretty much immediately. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously just, again, just the sort of thing that ByuN can do. MaxPax doesn't have a ton of units, so MaxPax just has to kind of run around with whatever he can, do what he can, where he can, and just try and make the most of these situations, even if it is less than ideal. And the force field coming down, and the Bioforce still moving out around the right side. Just trying to get involved, and it's going to be seen at Colossi taking another couple of shots there, so they're going to take some extra damage, and just now going to be seeing this Bio army. I mean, with the drop back in the back of the base, he's just going to keep his opponent moving around all over the place, really making this tough, guys. I mean, just making this as difficult as possible to get set up in this game. I don't know what else to say, right? ByuN is just controlling this, and to be fair, I think it is maybe fair to say and point out once again that MaxPax is kind of staying alive and keeping himself in it. Just don't know if overall that is going to make the biggest difference, all said and done. Army comes back over this way. That probe is going to go down. This pylon's obviously in a lot of trouble as well, so that's going to fall. Ghosting a little bit by around the right side there as the island takes a few more shots. Mortals coming out, Vikings continuing through, Marines and Marauders still in production. And just seeing this Bioforce once again up into the middle of the map, trying to make a bit of a play, trying to get something going here. Just try and keep the momentum rolling, because once more MaxPax, while he's been kind of on the back foot, these DTs, for example, over time have just chipped his way almost back into the game. I don't want to say back into the game, because I don't think he is. I think this is still absolutely in control from ByuN. I just think that it's not as clear-cut as it should be, because all of these little bits of damage have been going on behind these main attacks, right? And because this has all been just going on in the background, it's really starting to add up, and it's really starting to just make it so that ByuN's bigger plays have not been as effective as they maybe initially seen. Bioforce pushing through the top side. Stalkers are going to pull it away. Disruptor shot coming down there. I mean, that's the scary part as well, right? MaxPax is on this army, which is Colossus Disruptor. It's a composition which is overall absolutely very good, and is good enough to turn games around, especially as well. I think most notably is what we're looking for here is to bring him back into this a little bit if needed. Another attack from ByuN is going to go through on the natural. Love the EMPs on these Zealots as they come forward. Just through the choke point, that one ghost making, actually, there was two ghosts here, but they both made a pretty sizable difference, to be fair. I felt like both of them were pretty noteworthy as they came in, and I mean, again, got rid of a lot of the shields on his opponent's units, and that's always a pretty big deal on things like Zealots, which are just typically very tanky. Then, yeah, that's actually a pretty big deal, being able to do that. It can absolutely shift the balance of an engagement, as we do now see ByuN just takes that and he's rolling with it. Right now he's behind this mineral line, and this low ground position is always annoying to deal with. We know that. And he's just going to make it as annoying as possible as the Bioforce pulls back around. Stalkers, Colossi continuing to settle down in the middle of the map at the moment. Just going to be seeing our Vikings, Marines and Marauders all still continuing up. The Bioforce coming through again. Disruptor shot is going to go off. Obviously just using these Disruptors to zone these Bio army back, if nothing else. DTs in higher numbers now starting to strike. This is where they can really start killing bases, and if they can still kill some bases and kill like a decent amount of reinforcements for supplies, well, you can see it's starting to tip into favor of MaxPax a little bit. ByuN is going to start taking a great fight over here, though. The Vikings seemingly got enough against the Colossi, but no, it's not the case. The Vikings are actually unable to get rid of the Colossi then when making that move. And that means that the splash damage is still going to rain free in the sky, basically, from MaxPax, and ByuN can't deal with it. And suddenly MaxPax is coming back across for all the moves that ByuN made. He couldn't find the move that really put, like, some finishing touches to this game, and MaxPax is actually going to take it here on Hardwire. Great game from him. I really felt like he was always the player in trouble, and I will stand by a lot of what I said. I did not like the situation he was in. I didn't like the position he found himself in, but he took it and he made it work, and it just felt like the game was in ByuN's control until it just wasn't, right? Until that one big fight, it just wasn't the case anymore. Kind of crazy stuff. GG's. As in the lead, 2-0 in the top left-hand corner is going to be the Red Protoss player. This is MaxPax. Against the Blue Terran player in the bottom right-hand side from the Shopify Rebellion, it is, of course, ByuN. Map number 3 then, we're going to start off with a little bit of proxy action over on this side of the map. MaxPax is going to be the one to initiate this aggression this time around, so he's going to bring the fight to his opponent. Let's see how it goes for him. Let's see if he can make this work out nicely. We got a gateway going down there pretty much straight away, so that will drop down immediately. the probe is going to be moving forward here and just going to start nibbling away at a couple of these SCVs. So little bits of damage being done initially. Probe still continuing through and just going to be having now a little setup here, continuing to establish for the moment. Obviously waiting for the signs of what this proxy can get done in this game. These kind of proxies can obviously be very good, very effective. That was a... Okay, that was just a cleaning bot being killed. That's what I was wondering. I was like, what just died there? Like, did something just get cancelled? But no, it was the cleaning bot, so... Just the cleaning bot going down. It was just trying to block the base as per usual. Nothing new in the life of a cleaning bot, guys. They have one job and one job only. And that's to clean exactly where you want to put your CC to make sure no dirt gets in it. That's why they're always in the way of your buildings. Official reasoning. Alright, well, first Zealot coming out here. ByuN is unaware of this, and he's going to see the Zealot now start pulling back. He is on his way to Concussive Shells and Marauders for a third game in a row, and maybe this is what he was trying to catch MaxPax doing, because with Marauders and Concussive Shell, this becomes a much easier defense while still expanding. You know, it's not perfect, I don't think, but it definitely is better than what it would be a lot of the time otherwise. So, yeah, I mean, I'd much rather have this setup than, say, you know, a setup where I'm playing with, like, just Marine production in the early stages, right? You can see the couple Marauders continue to pull back. Results continue to take some damage there. A little bit more being done for the next few moments, as we do have Marauder in the back is kind of low HP, but the Zealot will not get to it, and now you're going to have yourself the other Marauder pushing this back. I mean, a few SCVs go down, but overall a reasonable and a quick defense as well, right? You know, this didn't take a long time. You weren't messing around trying to save your base. You weren't being stopped from mining during this or anything, right? It was just quick. It was good to go. Nice and easy, and now you got these Marauders trying to shut down this pylon. 3 of them on the high ground. One to stop this next Stalker from coming out especially. Not going to get it, but he's going to get a Stalker on the low ground. Yeah, now you're not going to shut down the gateway, though. Is that an issue? Because, okay, he's going to get a second Stalker, then I think that's worth it, then. I really didn't think he was going to get the, I didn't think he was going to get an additional Stalker on top of that. That obviously makes this completely fine and worthwhile. I thought that was going to be a little bit of a different situation, honestly, the way it was starting to go. But all good. Not quite the case. Doesn't need to be, as I'm Marine Marauder. Going to start the natural. A couple Stalkers still out the right-hand side. So they're still just hanging around and waiting for their chance as they keep this gateway alive. It has been a robot behind this, so MaxPax will be adding in that Prism and going for some further aggression here. So MaxPax going to keep up the aggro, basically. Wants to still make something of this. He's not just not going to let it go easily. He's content with the kind of style he's playing, and will really stand by it for the moment, as we do see the Stalker being chased. Marauder gets the shot off. It goes down, but the Stalker dies as well. And I mean, this has just been a constant duel over this pylon positioning. I mean, it's so... How much fighting it's gone over, it's almost like not even that important. I mean, it is, right? It's powering one of the 3 gateways of MaxPax. It's a key part of his production. Until the Prism shows up, it was his forward warping point as well, right? So it is a big deal. I'm not trying to say it doesn't mean anything, but it almost feels like it's like the entire game depends on this, the way that they've been fighting over and the way these engagements have been going. And maybe that's not quite the case, right? Maybe the entire game doesn't quite depend on it. I think that's would be fair to say. Yeah, it might have a little bit of an impact, but not completely game-changing, as we do just see Marines and Marauder holding out against this Prism initially. As it tries to come into the main base, will not really find much luck over here, though, so it doesn't quite find a way in. And I mean, at the most right now, it seems like you're just going to keep ByuN pretty comfortably on 2 bases, right? And okay, that's nice. You're going to keep ByuN on 2 bases, but there's definitely a feel that you were looking for, perhaps just a little bit more there in general. Let's see, Prism trying to come around the right side. You're not even going to be able to pressure into the base and maybe grab an SCV or 2, right? So ByuN is very well set up defensively. He knows that he's actually in a fine spot as long as he doesn't take any silly damage or anything, and he'll basically do just that. Make sure he doesn't take any silly damage. ByuN, hopefully you see here on Curious Minds, this will have been his map pick. Small map, difficult to take third base for the Protoss, and obviously if they take this left base, that's a very droppable and pushable kind of direction up in toward the main of your opponent, so you can siege up from the outside of the main, or, you know, set up to just kind of be pushing there and then just drop in. You have a lot of options in that position, basically, so that's something to kind of look at here, the fact that ByuN is basically getting MaxPax to take the left side base. It's not really one of the... It doesn't make this an easier map to defend the third on. You might think so because it's like up the high ground and everything and through a choke, but it really just opens your main base to attack. So you're sort of saying, yeah, you know what, you take this location and, you know, you'll have a tougher time on my third, but I'm going to have a tougher time defending my own main. So it kind of has, you know, a base with consequences, I suppose, as the Bioforce comes through. Seeing Colossus production still continuing through. Chrono boosting out at the moment. And just trying to speed that along as we have got the charge and the extended thermal lance all continuing up as well. So still just bringing all of this into play. Drop into the main base and just going to be seeing the push in from ByuN then to try and get some damage done. So there he is trying to take advantage of that. He's also on the middle of the map, and he did force a recall of the units into the main. Now, that wasn't enough Stalkers that recalled here, though. I mean, a couple of them went down as they were trying to go, and now the probes are stuck on Stalkers. Oh, man, well, this all kicked off very quickly, and all of a sudden, ByuN is going to push MaxPax into a really difficult spot. Well, you're going to stem up this base as well. Recall's already used, so you don't have any sort of tools to reposition with any longer. This kind of feels like this is going to be MaxPax taking way too much damage and probably falling into a whole bunch of trouble. I guess we will see the couple Stalkers still hanging out up on that top side. And just going to be having the armory coming through. The Marines, Marauders, Medivacs all continue to build, and there's a force from ByuN out in the bottom right-hand corner. Just holding out. There's a prism that's more or less waiting to make itself shine. Waiting for its opportunity to show itself and say, hey, look what I can do. I'm going to try and dive into the main base right now. Let's see if he can be successful. ByuN has got the third down. He's got the armory coming through behind us as well. So he's setting up into more and more later game options and giving himself some opportunities. The prism took some damage going in. Unloaded a Zealot or two, but really not much else. Not going to be able to sit there and warp in as ByuN tries to run down this ramp. The force fields, pretty much what they needed to be. If those force fields were any worse, then these Colossi would have been dead already. If they were dead already, obviously, then you're in a very difficult position in this game. So that part at least was a good save. As the Marines come through here, the Stalker is taking a little bit of a beating, isn't it? I get the super battery, though. So the super battery goes down now. Interesting. Okay. A little bit of progress being made, perhaps. Well, we've got ourselves a few gateways coming up extra from MaxPax, as these few Zealots going to dive the third base again. I mean, MaxPax leads the series 2-0, guys, so a great starting spot in this best of 9 as now the Zealots load up into the Prism, and they're going to escape out over to the right-hand side, dropping part into the natural, part into the main base, so just splitting themselves up a little bit. This disruptor shot looking big. That's a whole bunch of Marauders there initially, so that's a big shot for sure as well. It does some pretty reasonable damage. Dark Shrine coming up from MaxPax, so that's going to be his next step. Once again, moving into those DTs. I really think the DTs did a lot of work for him last time around. You know, they did so much. You consider the position he was in, and yeah, maybe he was definitely a tough one. I will stand by that no matter what. I do not like where he was at last game, but it was just the consistent, you know, DT here and there that kept him alive. It just meant that everything that ByuN was being successful with was just a little bit less meaningful than what ByuN wanted it to be, because he was just constantly taking that bit of damage himself back at home. Bioforce coming through. Pylon goes down. Just going to be seeing the barracks all set up across the bottom side over here, and a few tanks sieging up as well. Sits on this high ground. Obviously, this is scary because you can run down into that building fourth base or drop into the main, and that gives you two attack paths. And MaxPax, it's going to be difficult to cover both. In this case, he was in position for the main base, but he was not in position for the run into the low ground. And the run into the low ground turns out to be pretty reasonable. It goes well, and that's going to be a little bit of damage taken. So not allowed to get up to fourth base easily. He's now going to try and build in the bottom left corner, which is, well, that's very far out there. It's a small map, but that bottom left corner feels like an eternity away. And I know there's that third base that kind of leads to it. In general, just playing this left side of the map is much more different to what you usually see, which is playing kind of the triangle setup. And a lot of the time, people then expand to the top. If you're on MaxPax's position, you'd expand to that top 12 o'clock base. Now, this time, we're actually going to jump into the main base as ByuN. He will have a few of his medevac shot down pretty much immediately here, but actually was able to get unloaded for the most part. Just couldn't really find too much from there. Still not terrible. It's not like he got absolutely nothing out of that. Just one of those moves that feels like it could get so much done, and MaxPax does manage to pull a defense together. He is able to stop it in its tracks, and he's actually able to make this a reasonable setup for himself instead. These few Zealots are all going to go down, so that's a cleanup on the counterattack from MaxPax, and ByuN is going to have DTs and Zealots in his main base, so he's now going to have to start dealing with some of this multi-pronged aggression as well. And we'll see if he can really start getting on top of that sometime soon as these Vikings go in for the Prism. Colossi and Stalkers on the bottom side trying to make a push through. The support of the Disruptors that they now have, that definitely makes for a little bit of a different feel to what we've had so far. Yeah, CV's going down. We just saw the DTs and the Zealots heading in there to be the cause of that damage. As do have the army out down the bottom left-hand watchtowers coming through with that, and just going to be seeing this force of ByuN making its way down here. This is where the fourth base becomes difficult. I mean, ByuN doesn't even have to get that far forward, and he's already zoned his opponent out of his own fourth base. And that's just the weakness of kind of taking this left side expansion pattern. This is sort of a move that you don't really want to have to deal with until even later in the game, right? And instead you're dealing with it right now. ByuN is not allowed a fourth of his own. No DTs will stop that from coming online. And if nothing else, these two are continuing to play scrappy action here in Curious Minds. They are not letting up in that regard, that's for sure. Very fun games actually when they play like this, right? When it gets scrappy and it's back and forth and it's more or less non-stop, which is going to be seen by Army running down. Scan comes down, and the DTs do get chased away there initially, so they get pushed back. And these other tanks going to come sieging up. Well, the tanks actually siege very far forward, and we do see the units of MaxPax are actually able to get a little bit of a jump on those. The Colossus taking damage, but the Super Battery will keep them alive. And ByuN, I mean, honestly, one of those scenarios where it's like, well, do you even need to be fighting here, mate? You know, why are we fighting? You know, what are we gaining from doing this? Well, not a lot, actually, because there's no fourth base. You'd be much better swinging around to deny the attempted fourth base, because that's the one thing that really is going to keep you in probably the best possible position in this game. If you don't let him get a fourth base, he's going to run out of money eventually. And you know you've been trading well, right? You've seen that in the game. You know, you know with how this game has been going that you've been trading decently. You know how these engagements have been, so that's knowledge you have. So yeah, just keep that fourth base tonight, which is what he does now. You don't need to try and push in for the big fight right in, you know, one big moment or anything along those lines. You're completely fine without that. See if ByuN agrees. As he's dropping into the main base again. I mean, he denied the fourth base again here now, and he sees the opportunity into the main, so this is fine. I mean, like I say, anything that's just not the big straight-up fight, because I do think the big straight-up fight is the one place MaxPax can do very well. A couple of Disruptor Shocks, you know, go his way, for example, and it's that's a difficult little game to play out at that stage, right? So, yeah, it's just the one thing I want us to be a little cautious of. I know I'm kind of hanging on the fact or hanging on the idea, but stand by it. Probe's going to move away from the 4th base. Well, they kind of need to. If this group of units comes running in as well, that's going to be a little annoying that you have to deal with once again that you don't really want to be dealing with as well, right? It's not turning out to be very fun, this. So going to be seeing the stem down and trying to dive for the Colossus. I'll tell you what, MaxPax is very good at keeping his Colossus alive. And I don't just mean this game, but just in his PvT in general. Like his Colossus, 12 kills, 7 kills. It just feels like they survive a lot of the time when people would kind of usually let them die. We're 17 minutes in, we only lost 1. And it just means you'd never have to really go back and rebuild those. And if you never have to go back to rebuild those, the difference that makes is pretty substantial, actually. It's kind of a big, big deal, I would say. Disruptors getting some of the ghosts there with the bio units, and that's going to be nice. I mean, that's the sort of thing that MaxPax needs. He's going to blink in over here. He needs the disruptor shots to do well. He needs these DTs to do a lot of damage on the harassment and on the counterattack. So he's kind of doing what he needs to do so far if he wants to give himself a chance. So credit to him. He's doing the right kind of thing. Let's see if he can do it enough and just get enough out of all of this to make this work out. It's just settling down, and a 4th base finally up and running on both sides, of course, means the game, for as scrappy as it was, it's actually going to take calm a few moments here, at least, while we wait for the next point of aggression. MaxPax, though, I feel like the game calming down hurts him the most, because ByuN was always in the advantage, so when the game calms down and it doesn't, it's not as scrappy anymore, ByuN's advantage really seems to build, and you can just see now, like 190 to 120 supply, dropping the main forces, a massive recall, and now, okay, ByuN's just won the game because he's trying to jump the disruptors. I actually feel like he missed a chance to jump one of the disruptors there, so that was a little bit weird when it didn't need to be like that. I feel like he could have done a little bit better in that moment, but it doesn't even really matter. He still has the W, and he's on the scoreboard here with his first map of this best of 9. Into a little bit of glitter and ashes, guys. So, kicking this off, thank you for joining us today. Like I say, just a little bit of a surprise stream on my part as well. I quite literally last night just got a offer for a Twitch bounty and said, you know what, we can cast some replays and do a little sponsorship at the end. A little bit of pre-Katowice stream. Been a quiet week or so for us, so why the hell not? Let's make something of it as we kick this off and get this going. But on the top right hand side, the Shopify Rebellion Blue Terran player is going to be ByuN. While in the bottom left, the Red Protoss player still 2-1 in the lead. It is MaxPax from Sidestorm Gaming. This time was not able to break the momentum of ByuN, was not able to stop him in his tracks and turn the game on its head. And was not, just going to have to deal with that a little bit. I mean, he did a lot of the same things, just ByuN. I feel like he didn't take as many crazy trades, or almost, I want to say, like, desperate trades. I don't know if I really want to say desperate, but it felt like he was a little bit better because kind of holding trigger on some of the fights, and he was just keeping that. He was finding a way to just do enough damage while dealing with the damage he was he was taking. Whereas last time he was kind of dealing in damage decently, and he was taking damage too, but then he wasn't holding the trigger on the bigger fights, and he lost out one of those, and all of a sudden, MaxPax was still in the game because of what he was able to do throughout with his own harassment. A couple of people asking when this was played. I already answered this. It was about a week and a half ago. I don't have an exact date. I want to say maybe like the 7th or 8th of February. I don't know for sure. The date's out there if you want to look it up, but it's less than 2 weeks old for sure. That's what I can tell you, absolutely. I didn't actually check myself because obviously I didn't want to check the score or anything, so all I know is that it's a best of 9. Thank you so much, Brusley, for the 20-month resub, Kratos for the 15-month resub, WardiTV this Sunday with some awesome SC2. Thank you so much. Glad you're enjoying. Again, just want to mention, guys, that main part of today is I'm going to do a little sponsored stream at the end. I'm going to be live for an hour playing Lost Ark. I'm sure if you've been on Twitch outside the SC2 category lately, you've probably seen it. I'm going to be playing that for 1 hour at the end of the games today. And if you stick around doing that, if you just leave the stream on or whatever, it helps out a whole bunch. So that's the only thing I will mention. Otherwise, it's a pretty chill Sunday, just casting a nice little best of 9, which is now into its 4th map. Phoenix coming up. Warpgate is on the way in. And a decent amount of setup in that regard at the moment. It's just going to see our Widowmine coming through. CC building at the front, and that Reaper hops up and hops down. Again, just adventuring and trying to see a little bit of what is going on. Now CC is going to fly on over to the natural expansion. So he's going to get into place over there. And get this going. See what can be done. One shot connects for an Adept, so a little bit of damage on that as the couple of Marines continue through. Zealot continues to be chased away at the moment. The Widowmine gets taken down. Now the Reaper and the Adept together are going to show up. They're going to move through, and they're going to have something to say about this. We're actually going to see the Phoenix lifting up. The Reaper straight away is just taking that out of the equation. That won't get a chance to do much of anything over here. That's going to be seen our robo facility, as mentioned before, is a few moments away from just getting completed. So, just getting that wrapped up over the next couple of moments. The tech lab finishing up on the starport. And the CC going to go down in the corner as well, so we'll get that command center underway. Adept and Zealot moving through in the middle. Second one's actually going to get a little lock on, clean out that depth. A few Marines coming in to help out with that a little bit, so that's always nice. And yeah, it's the Phoenix going into this Raven. I mean, obviously, first time we've seen a Raven all series because we've been playing Marauders after Marauders. It doesn't really lead into the Raven, the fastest second racks and everything, but now we're seeing a Raven, and yet it's up against these Phoenix, and it always feels scary because, I mean, right here, these Phoenix, they probably could, I mean, the damage they put on that tank, if they just went a step further forward and saw to target down the Raven, Raven might have just been dead. You know, the Raven is not really meant to survive in these sort of situations, actually. It's not a pretty trade out, that's for sure, so. We're going to see our factory lifting off reactor. He's going to be coming through on that. Just going to see our Phoenix coming back along and try to see if they can get up to much as they lift up a few of these SCVs. So a little bit of damage being done on the SCVs already. And just going to see now the Raven is going to get shot down. Oh, it costs you a bunch of Phoenix, though. That's not good. This is not meant to cost you that many Phoenix. The Raven, if... Oh, no! Another Phoenix goes down. This is really bad. I mean, that's a lot of damage you just took right there. That's... really not meant to be in that kind of, you know, you're not meant to take that amount of damage. You can, like, lose a Phoenix maybe to shoot down the Raven. It's a valuable unit, don't get me wrong. You can't lose that many. I mean, that was just a little bit too much, unfortunately. Well, that was a little bit wonky, but, well, I guess they'll see what comes up next. I mean, to me, that really just resets all of this control that MaxPax had. Now you've only got 4 Phoenix in the game. You know, just to be clear, he lost 4. He could have had 8 Phoenix, and they'd be such a bigger threat. It'd be a threat to these medevacs and just anything they approach. And instead, 4 Phoenix is like, you know, it's kind of whatever. They're not going to be super support units for Colossi. Yeah, they'll support a little bit, but they're not going to be like the craziest thing you've ever seen. Phoenix back out down the bottom and just getting reset here as we do have the 1-1 upgrades continuing through. And the concussive shot's coming up. ByuN's going to go for one of his first pushes out the other side now. Spy army coming through, tank, Cyclone. Well, let's just get set up a little bit. As we get this underway, just going to be seeing the Cyclone, the Viking getting some shots off. I mean, there's big push setting up here from ByuN, coming all the way across the map. 1-1 upgrades and combat shields going to be finishing soon as we get in range over on this side. Fire Force hitting the Stargate, hitting the gateway. Widowmine goes off, grabs the Phoenix. Target comes through, the few Phoenix coming across, the Zealot's taking a little bit of damage as well. I'm just going to be seeing the Cybercore is probably going to go down now. So this push has turned into just this drop up into the main base, and that is doing very well here. As we are just going to be seeing the ByuN now going to try and grab a Colossus. Will not be able to do that, unfortunately. As a few Phoenix come in to chase the Medivacs out of here, he will be chased on away. Oh, nice little Widowmine at the end there as well. Grabs a Phoenix, just an extra bonus kill at the very end of that, so a little bit of a bonus. Why the heck not? Take what you're given, of course. And keeping some of the ByuN in the center. I mean, MaxPax is going to be playing just from behind pretty much straight away here, right? So he's going to have to try and find a way back into this from the start, as we do see the extra Zealot's just going to start warping in. So we'll just start out with that. I'm just going to be seeing the attacks coming through as a few probes go down from the drop on the main. Zealots are attacking in to try and deal some damage of their own. So far, nothing too crazy. I think it's nothing too crazy just yet, but we'll see what happens. Still time for this to develop into something a little bit funky. I'm just going to be seeing, honestly, reasonable defense from ByuN. I'm impressed that he only loses 4 SCVs to those Zealots, because it's not like he had a ton of units to help out with. Here comes the rest of the army from MaxPax, though, and his overall ByuN just losing out here. I mean, maybe never mind the fact that he's lost a low work account. What if he's actually just in trouble from losing too much altogether? Zealots continue in, the Bioforce continuing through. I mean, this army's just going to go jumping onto his base. Can ByuN get enough racked up together all at once to actually make this work? It feels a little bit troublesome for him right now. It feels like he's in a bit of a weird spot. And this army comes up this ramp. ByuN is waiting and waiting to pounce. He's got a few Medivacs and units across the map, but the Zealots there will deal with that, so that's not going to be anything too crazy all said and done. Going to see a couple of hallucinations coming in to help. A few Marines in the main base trying to help out as well. Just too much splash damage, it seems, from MaxPax. A couple of Vikings, though, are going to start getting rid of the Colossi, and then maybe you win this out just by kiting the other units. It's actually a pretty reasonable point that you actually probably do just win this out just from kiting against the final few units here. And yeah, getting rid of the Colossi was a big part of it. However, will ByuN ever really recover? I mean, he will get back to 4 bases. It's possible if MaxPax gives him time. If MaxPax just goes right now, especially with like a big group of Zealots, I think Zealots are the worst thing ByuN can be playing against at the moment. Because Zealots are very much so going to be just a little bit too tanky to really get rid of effectively in the slightest, you know? Like, they're just not going to be able to... It's just something you can't fight in these, like, they're so good in low numbers, right? That's why, you know, stacking up a ton of gateway units early in the game works so often. Because it's just good, plain and simple. I'm just going to see our Prism backing away. The CC goes down on the top left. I think ByuN may be struggling away in this game, guys. I think he might be in just some serious trouble. I think this might be, dare I say it, MaxPax taking another map. Maybe I'm casting a bit ByuN favorite today. I feel like I'm constantly like, oh yes, ByuN this, ByuN that, and maybe I'm just not respecting the defenses of MaxPax and what he is bringing to the table and what he is what he is, doing. As he's had a lot of good defense, and he's been very good at finding the counterattacks at the right time to make the most of these situations and to really make something out of a lot of these positions. Because he really has been in trouble at times today. I will stand by. I don't think that I'm wrong in saying ByuN has been putting himself in good positions. Because maybe I need to be a little bit more excited about some of the plays MaxPax is making to keep himself alive and in these games. Right now, though, this attack through looks as though ByuN is going to pull off the hold, and he's going to get the cleanup, and the Colossus and a few Stalkers, they all die. That's going to be a huge deal. Suddenly, the supply is going to start tilting back, and tell you what, 2-2 versus 1-0, that's going to start having to play in these low unit count engagements. I think ByuN has just fought his way back into this game, losing SCVs. The problem is going to remain to be the the 72 probes to the 38 SCVs, right? Like, the probe count is huge, but if ByuN can maybe go and make something happen right now, and that will involve attacking into a defensive MaxPax, which typically isn't good for you, well, that might just be his best shot. That might just be his way of possibly making something happen here. Pushing up the ramp and trying to get active initially. Doesn't really find too much. I mean, it's just a different game when you've got to go across the map and run up a ramp into this position, right? It's just so much more difficult to make work, it feels like, and I think that's the issue ByuN is kind of running into at the moment. He has got Liberators showing up, though, and they're pretty powerful, and there's not a lot of anti-air. It's just still not quite going to be enough. Good effort from ByuN to try and draw it out into something, but it doesn't quite work, and it is going to be